What's the point of your existence?
To feel. Because you've never done it, you can never know it. But it's as vital as breath. And without it, without love, without anger, without sorrow, breath is just a clock ticking.
It's not about being happy. That's the thing. I'm just trying to get through each day. I can't keep asking myself, am I happy? Am I happy? It just makes me more miserable.
I always thought you were like Janet, but then here you are with this fucking chicken. So, what's with that, huh?
Forget? After I've seen the outline of my brother's body on the floor, you expect me to forget? I want to kill those sons of bitches. I'm gonna blow their fucking heads off.
I don't like to smile unless I have a reason.
Is life always this hard? Just when you're a kid.
Welcome back to the Skewered Universe podcast. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Leiann.
And tonight we're doing something a little bit different. We're not doing an Interstellar Interstitial style review like we normally do. But before we get into that, Leiann, is there anything you want to talk about before we jump into what we're doing?
I don't think so.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was anything new you wanted to bring to the table, anything you've been doing, or...
I don't know, man. What have I been doing? You tell me.
You got new shoes?
I got new shoes.
That was a big step.
Run, Forrest, run. They're ugly, and they're expensive, but they're comfortable, and they're appropriate for my feet.
And that's what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aside from that, there hasn't been a whole hell of a lot else going on. Well, except we finally are moving forward with home renovations.
Yeah.
So that's going to start soon. So just a warning, it may hinder some recording.
We don't know, man.
But we're hoping to get the rest of October's. We got some Halloween stuff slated. We've got some friends sending in some clips that we're going to include. It's going to be a real fun time. Nick Cage November. We're going to try our best. December, try our best. As we said, renovations are going to start happening. So,
yeah, they told us it would be 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, so if we kind of have limited output, that is why.
Yeah.
But the reason we're doing this episode, and it is being released in October, is because we didn't do it ahead of time. But we're going to be talking about a bit of a controversial film from the 90s.
It's been very controversial for a very long time.
That is very true. Very, very true. And in looking into the history of this movie, I can see, especially after we watched it, this was the first time I've ever watched this movie.
I saw it when I was a teenager in the 90s.
We were talking about a little movie from 1995 called Kids.
Spoiled children soon to fall. Freedom is the lie we live. No one cries for help. Waiting for the fire. Daddy never understood. Thought I was up to no good. Throwing at me in his sweatpants. Will make me dance, daddy dance, daddy dance, daddy. I stick this whip between my fingers. A peanut butter on my pants. I'm gonna do myself good. 'Cause daddy never understood.
So this movie, I'm not going to go through the plot. You guys can look that up. I'm not going to go extensively through the plot, but this is sort of a what would you say, sort of looking at day in the life of these high school kids.
Yeah. You're not gonna go into the plot?
Well, we'll go into the plot, but I'm not going to go detailed. Like, I have the full plot description here from Wikipedia, and it's long.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go through that. We're just going to kind of break down what it is. But this movie was written by Harmony Korine, directed by Larry Clark. Should we run through
the actors?
Like, we're doing this a little different, so we're going to run through the cast. So we have Leo Fitzpatrick as Telly.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Pierce as Casper, Chloe Sevigny as Jenny, Rosario Dawson as Ruby, Yakira Peguero as Darcy, and if I mispronounce these names, I'm sorry ahead of time. Tavi Rodriguez as Misha, John Abrahams as Stephen, Harold Hunter as Harold, that's an easy one to remember, Sajan Bagat as Paul, and Hamilton Harris as Hamilton.
Nice.
So, this movie, as I said, it sort of focuses on a day in the life of these, what are they, like high school age kids? Some close to graduation, some like probably sophomores, maybe juniors in high school. And basically the boys are super fucking horny. And actually, both the boys and the girls in this movie,
they're teenagers.
Sex is on their mind. These teens have sex on their mind 100% of the time. This movie sort of focuses. You know what? Let me go to the plot because I want to make sure I give you guys some real good information. I don't want to be. So we have Telly, who is sort of, he thinks of himself as this ladies' man. He's just out trying to get his dick wet all the time with whoever he can. He is 17, and he's not afraid to say that he likes hooking up with the younger girls. Which is already, like, huge red flag. Huge red flag. He's got a friend, Casper, who's also... These two are like the most juvenile delinquents of juvenile delinquents you've ever seen. Would you say that's a pretty fair assessment?
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are running to, like, bodegas and stealing malt liquor. All they do is talk about hooking up with girls, getting blowjobs, drinking, doing drugs. There's a whole scene with a bunch of girls talking about fucking and who they wanted to hook up with and this and that. It's...
what they like sexually, what they don't like.
Yeah. But the biggest crux of this movie, I guess I'll say, the big underlying story that sort of interconnects everyone, is all these kids kind of know each other. And Telly has slept with numerous girls within this group, especially Jenny. Well, Jenny and her friend go to get tested at the clinic because that's the responsible thing to do if you're sexually active. Come to find out, Jenny discovers she is now HIV positive. And she has only ever had sex with Telly. I don't want to read the plot because it's so detailed.
Okay, well, how about the IMDb one? Amoral teen Telly has made it his goal to sleep with as many virgin girls as possible, but he doesn't tell them he's HIV positive. While on the hunt for his latest conquest, Telly and his best friend Casper smoke pot and steal from shops around New York. Meanwhile, Jenny, one of Telly's early victims, makes it her mission to save the other girls from him. But before she has a chance to confront him at a party, everything goes horribly wrong.
Okay, good. Because, like I said, if you look at the page, this plot, that's basically the entire movie, and that is not... it's not really how I wanted to approach it, so thank you for doing that. I think we should just... Do we just want to talk about how fucked up everything in this movie is?
Well, let's start with... What were your expectations before you watched it?
See, I had only heard the lore of this movie, that it was really controversial and messed up, and it had all these, like... in my head, it was young underage kids forced into these sexual situations to film this movie, and they were all doing drugs. So I had this vision of this thing built up in my head, like this mythological, this movie Kids is this, like, really fucked up. And it is fucked up. But it's not quite what the mythology would lead you to believe for someone who hadn't seen it.
Okay.
So once I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. It's not... How do I put this without sounding... It's not as terrible as I thought it was going to be. Like, it didn't seem like people were coerced by directors and writers and producers to do anything they didn't want to do. It's just, this is a movie that takes a hard look at, this is how real teenage kids in high school act and talk and behave. And we're shining a light on things that probably actually happen within your own home that you don't even realize are happening. So I think that might be why it's so controversial. Adults seeing kids in these situations, which is really fucked up. I mean, drugs, STDs being passed around like it's no big deal. I mean, I'll say it right now, rape.
Yeah.
So I can see why people would be like, no, this movie shouldn't be seen by anybody.
I like it. I like it. The only thing that I thought was legitimately controversial was when I had first seen it when I was a teenager, I was under the impression that they were underage. And that was the controversy. Controversy was that they were actually underage. It turns out that's not the case for the majority. And the ones that were underage, in the scenes, they are very careful not to cross certain boundaries for underage actors. It was still pushing it hard. Yeah. However, back in the 90s, you really only needed parents' permission to film the movie. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's some scenes where you're like, wait a minute, these young kids are around drugs? And you're like, you find out, oh, there's not really any drugs per se. Not that they would have drugs on set anyway. But it was very cleverly edited to make it seem like they were around or they were in certain situations. I'm not going to lie. It looked like the whippets were real, and it would make sense because technically whippets are illegal. It's just the way you put it together is the legal part, so... Yeah. So they might have actually been doing whippets. I don't know.
It's very possible. I didn't see anything that led me to believe that was true, but, you know, you never know. You never know.
There's a lot of violence.
A lot of violence. A lot of unnecessary violence because Casper is a hothead. There's one scene in particular in this park where they're all hanging out with their friends, drinking, smoking, acting like a bunch of stupid teenagers do. We were all there once. And some guy just... I think, Casper was skateboarding and bumped into this guy, and the guy's like, hey, watch where you're going. And Casper just went 0 to 100. Mm-hmm. And Casper's the type of guy who's only tough when he's got 20 of his friends around to beat the shit out of some dude. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. Yeah. He runs his mouth. This guy's like, just watch where the fuck you're going, you little shit. And then 19 other people show up to help Casper beat the shit out of this guy and damn near kill him. Yeah. It was not easy to watch at all.
No, it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Not that any beating scenes are easy to watch, but...
But then again, you know, at the time I was also watching Clockwork Orange. Yeah. You know? So, watching kids was normal for me.
Yeah. I think at that time, if I would have seen it, I would have been like, oh yeah, I can see why. Mm-hmm. But I probably would have had more of an appreciation for it than I do. That said, I did like watching this movie. Mm-hmm. It is not entertaining. It is more of a thought-provoking piece. Mm-hmm. Like, I immediately thought back and was like, I knew people like this in high school.
Oh, yeah.
Who were hotheads.
You were immediately turned off. You're like,
Yeah.
I know guys like this.
Yeah. And the fact that Telly, it's never really disclosed whether he knows he has HIV.
Doesn't say.
So if he does, he's a fucking asshole. If he doesn't know, he's still a fucking asshole because he's not going to get tested. He's just going around fucking all these girls and spreading it like wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
And there's ramifications to that. We don't see it play out because it's like, you know what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we all know ultimately what's going to happen to these people who have caught it. There are really no redeeming characters in this film whatsoever.
The Chloe Sevigny character. She's literally not an asshole in any way, shape, or form.
But towards the end of the film, when she walks in and sees Telly having sex with another girl, she doesn't step in to stop it.
She
walks
is
away.
intoxicated with
she's
an
on-
unknown drug, and then is so drugged, she doesn't even know she's getting raped.
True, but knowing that the entire day she's been spending trying to find Telly, she didn't need to go to a club and drink and get drugged. She could have avoided those situations. But, again, she's a teenager. And, okay, you've made a good point. I redact my statement.
You're allowed to disagree.
Well, thinking about it more closely, you're right. She was under the influence. She wasn't in her right mind.
She was so drugged, she didn't know she was getting raped.
No idea.
So, just even seeing him there, I mean, he gave her this disease that at the time was life-threatening. I mean, it still is, but you know what I mean. It was more dangerous then.
Mm-hmm.
And she's drugged out of her fucking mind. She's a teenager. They're gonna do drugs. I've done mystery drugs. We do it. Was it a stupid decision? Yeah, but she wasn't hurting anyone.
True, and also
She wasn't doing anything intentionally. She was already upset. She had just found out she's essentially dying. You know, she went to a club to look for him, finds her friend, and her friend kind of coerces her, but in a peer pressure, I'm comfortable saying. It wasn't like he forced her. It's not like any of that. However, he was convincing, but she also did understand this is a mystery drug and I'm taking it. But I don't think she meant any harm to anyone. She was very upset.
Yeah, good argument for you. I will, like I said, I will redact what I said. I've only seen this movie once, so
Yeah,
and I saw it a
this is
while
my
ago.
second time watching it.
Yeah, you see things differently than I do because I was seeing it from the perspective of this is the first time watched as a 44-year-old man thinking back to my high school days. You saw it at the time. You were the age of these kids.
And even
roughly,
even her friend isn't a bad person. Does she have a insane amount of sex? Yup. Is she irresponsible a decent amount of the time? Yup.
Yeah.
But she's also in that fucking clinic. She was the one that wanted to go. What's her face just tagged along. So even then, she's still not being a complete asshole.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson's character, as little as she's in the movie, because I expected to be more, because I was like, oh, that was Rosario Dawson's, like, big breakout role. Like,
she was so cute.
she is honestly not in the movie for that long. Because once her character is done, that's it. You don't see her again. She's, hey, I'm going to the clinic. Chloe Sevigny's character, Jenny, just tags along. And then she's like, hey, we'll figure this out. You know, what's going on? She's trying to help her.
And she's just like, no, I gotta go find Telly. Bye. I gotta go.
Yeah. So, looking at it now with what you said, I think Jenny was driven to find Telly to be like, what the fuck were you doing? Why aren't you getting tested? You basically just killed me. You're a walking death sentence to anyone you touch at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But she's also like, well, my life's over, so I might as well indulge in everything else. Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
I kind of want to forget everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably not going to find him because he's out slinging dick all around New York.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this isn't a horror movie, and I know we cover mostly horror movies on this podcast. This is like the horrors of real life
Mm-hmm.
amongst teenagers. And this kind of shit is still happening in 2024. Guarantee. We may not know the people that are doing it, but I guarantee teenagers are still out doing drugs, drinking, fucking...
Not understanding the consequences of their actions.
Yeah.
Not understanding the weight of the seriousness of their actions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you got scenes like Subway guy with, I got no legs. I got no legs.
You were really wanting me to see that part because you'd always talk about it. I'm like, what is that from? You're like, it's from Kids. I'm like, I don't know.
It was really my favorite part.
I got no legs. And they're just like looking at him like, what the fuck? Like laughing. I'm like, you don't really laugh at this guy. What the hell? This is fucked up. This guy's got no legs. He's on a skateboard pushing himself through the subway. I mean, he seems in good spirits, but I don't know.
I have no legs. I have no legs. I have no legs.
So apparently, looking at the info I've pulled here,
Yeah, I'm interested to see the factoids you have.
Larry Clark, the director, stated that he wanted to make the great American teenage movie like the Great American Novel. The film is shot in a quasi-documentary style, although all of its scenes are scripted.
Yeah. Yeah,
Makes
it's
sense.
documentary
I can see
style.
where that comes. I can see how that looks because it doesn't look like a traditional.
Basically,
film.
a camera is following these kids around.
Yeah, there's no talking head interviewing them in between, but you
No.
can see this would be how you would follow these kids around to see what they're doing. Because even in the clinic, when they're sitting there, it's very much like somebody sitting there with a camera, filming the nurse at the clinic and filming the patient who's there to get tested. It's very much going back and forth. So, most of the kids cast in this film were New York City street kids with no previous acting experience, notably Leo Fitzpatrick, who played Telly, and Justin Pierce, who played Casper. Clark originally decided he wanted to cast Fitzpatrick in a film after watching him skateboard in New York and cursing when he could not land certain tricks. Harmony Korine had met Chloe Sevigny in New York before production began on Kids and initially cast her in a small role as one of the girls in the swimming pool. She was given the lead role of Jenny after Mia Kirshner, the original actress cast, was deemed not the right fit to work with first-time actors.
Interesting.
And then Sevigny and Korine went on to make Gummo in 97 and Julian Donkey Boy in 1999 together. And Harmony Korine has a cameo in the club scene of this film.
Oh, yeah?
With Jenny as the kid wearing Coke bottle glasses and a nuclear assault shirt who gives her drugs. Though the part is credited to his brother Avi.
Ah, okay. Why?
I have no idea. It does not say here, but apparently Korine first wrote, or reportedly he wrote the film's screenplay in 93 at the age of 18. And then principal photography took place during the summer of 94. Contrary to the perception of many viewers, the film, according to Korine, was almost entirely scripted, with the only exception being the scene with Casper on the couch at the end, which was improvised.
What do they mean improvised?
When he's waking up at the very end of the movie. When he's getting up, it's like, what the fuck happened?
Oh, okay.
That was improvised. So they had Gus Van Sant originally attached to the film as a producer, but after sufficient interest had been generated in the film, he left the project. And then under incoming producer Kerry Woods, they found sufficient independent funding for the film. This makes it even more icky, what I'm about to say. Harvey Weinstein of Miramax, wary of parent company the Walt Disney Company's opinion of the risky screenplay, he declined to involve Disney in funding the production of the film. After Wood showed him the final cut, Miramax paid $3.5 million to buy the worldwide distribution rights of this film. So it's icky. The Weinsteins had their hands in this, and at some edit. That just makes it even more gross.
Yeah.
Because you just wonder, like, were they just screening it going, isn't this fucking hot? Look at these kids. Don't you want it? Like, fuck the Weinsteins. I don't care if this gets them. Fuck them both. Pieces of shit.
Do you have very passionate feelings about them?
They're fucking assholes. Both of them. Even Rob Zombie will tell you they're both a couple of fucking assholes. Apparently that's why he wanted out of his contract doing 3 movies with them. He's like, I'll do Halloween 2 if you let me out of my fucking contract. Because they'd look at, it wasn't Harvey, it was Bob. Would call him out after looking at the dailies of the film and go, this is fucking shit, every scene is shit. And then later on, when he's filming 2, he brings the trailer to the original Halloween Rob Zombie directed, the first one, and goes, you see this trailer? Every scene in this movie is fucking gold. And he's like, what? You fucking... It's like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with these people. Yeah. There ain't enough doctors to study what's wrong with those two. But, I digress from my little anti-Weinstein rant here. So, for the release of this film, we're going to talk a little bit about this. Miramax, which of course we all know was owned by Disney at the time, paid $3.5 million to buy the worldwide distribution rights. Later, Harvey and Bob Weinstein, the co-chairman of Miramax, were forced to buy back the film from Disney and created Shining Excalibur Films, a one-off company, to release the film due to Disney's policy that, at the time, forbid the release of NC-17 rated films.
That makes sense.
And the fact their appeal to the MPAA to lower it to R was denied.
No, it's got a rape scene in it. That's not R.
Yeah, that's not R. It's... How do I put this? It's not an overtly graphic scene, but it is a disturbing scene that goes on far too long.
Mm-hmm.
But
it is explicit.
It's... What I mean by that is they're not showing you any...
You don't see genitalia.
You don't see anything like that.
But you can tell that that scene must have been very uncomfortable to even rehearse.
Yeah. But
because they are very close, and he is bending her like a pretzel.
And he keeps saying, like, shh, it's okay, just be quiet, just go. And it's like, ew.
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, honestly, if somebody would have woken up in that point and saw him, I hope they would have taken his skateboard and cracked him over the head like 900 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's the least of what he deserved for what he was doing. Anyway. So the film cost $1.5 million to produce, grossed $7.4 million in the North American box office, and $20 million worldwide.
Mm.
That's, on a $1.5 million budget, $20 million worldwide?
Not bad.
Yeah. Not bad for a small little independent film that is very controversial.
Controversy sells.
It really does. And according to Peter Biskin's book, Down and Dirty Pictures, Eamon Bowles, who was brought in as the chief operating officer of Shining Excalibur Films that the Weinsteins created strictly for release, distributing this film. He stated that Harvey and Bob Weinstein might have personally profited up to $2 million each. Fucking assholes. So now on to some of the how this film was received. So we'll just start. Everybody's favorite Rotten Tomatoes. We'll just go there.
Okay.
So according to this, the film received mixed reviews. Rightfully so.
Obviously.
Totally understand. So on Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 47% based on 58 critics' reviews, with an average rating of 5.70 out of 10. So the site's consensus reads, Kids isn't afraid to test viewers' limits, but the point of its nearly non-stop provocation is likely to be lost in all of the repellent characters and unpleasant imagery. On Metacritic, the film has a score of 63 out of 100 based on reviews from 18 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews.
Damn.
So now on to the guy that I bashed during our Elephant Man episode, Roger Ebert. So at the time, Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times championed this film. He gave the film 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Interesting.
And he is quoted as saying, "Kids is the kind of movie that needs to be talked about afterward. It doesn't tell us what it means. Sure, it has a message involving safe sex. But safe sex is not going to civilize these kids, make them into curious, capable citizens."
Mm-mm.
What you realize, thinking about Telly, is that life has given him nothing that interests him except for sex, drugs, and skateboards.
Yeah.
His life is kind of hell, briefly interrupted by orgasms.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because Telly's home life, his mom is obviously more interested in her baby than him. Doesn't give a shit what he's doing. I think his dad's out of the picture. It doesn't really say.
To be fair, his poor mom has probably been through fucking hell. He acts polite in her presence. However, he acts like a fucking heathen everywhere else to everyone else.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what she's gone through with him. I mean, what are you going to do? At some point, he's practically 18. I mean, what are you going to do? She's got a baby to deal with.
Yeah. She may have just be at her wit's end with him and be like, as soon as he's 18, I can get him the fuck out of here. He can do whatever the fuck he wants, because he's doing it anyway.
Yeah.
He might just be one of those kids that, regardless of how much guidance and love and support she showed him, he was just,
whatever.
I'm gonna do whatever I want anyway.
Mm-hmm.
We all know people who were like that. We all know kids growing up who were like that. That no matter what their parents did, they were going to continue to do whatever the hell they wanted.
How did you feel about her smoking around the baby?
It was almost like, that was the second kid, what the fuck ever. I was like, what the hell? What the hell? So you have her smoking around the kid, then you got Casper who's like,
Ogling her.
She's going to breastfeed the baby. It's like, dude, that's your friend's mom, fuckstick.
Yeah.
Like, and she's trying to breastfeed the baby. There's nothing but you're a teenage boy, and any kind of glimpse of a titty is going to get you bricked up. Man. It's just, yeah, his home life is fucked, but I'm wondering, because we don't get a glimpse, we don't know much about his past.
They don't touch on it that much.
We don't know anything about where his father's gone. I don't think they even touch on that. He's basically shows up to, like, get some food, get something to drink, change his clothes.
Go look for more pussy.
Yeah. More drugs and more pussy.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it.
You know that later in life, he's gonna be garbage.
Yeah.
If he makes it that long. Who knows how long he had HIV?
Yeah. There's no telling. There's no telling. And what was really... well, one thing that bothered me when they showed him at home with Casper, when he was changing to go back out for what they were going to do later. No shower, no deodorant, no trying to clean up. Just sprays himself with a water bottle because it's so hot. And then Casper's like, you're not even going to put on this? He's like, nah, my natural scent. It's like, no, you smell like ass. Fucking take a shower. I grew up with kids. My own brother didn't shower sometimes, and he smelled like rotten ass. It's like, your BO is off the charts around that time. Fucking wash, use deodorant, wipe your ass, scrub your balls, and try to at least be presentable. Jesus Christ. I was just like, dude. Like, that's the one point of fiction in this movie. It's like, none of these chicks will get near you because your balls are going to smell like Swiss cheese and fucking whatever else. It's like, ugh. So anyway, back to some more of the critic stuff. So Janet Maslin of the New York Times called the film a wake-up call to the modern world about the nature of present-day youth and urban life. She added, it's also an extremely difficult film to sit through, with an emphasis on societal disintegration and adolescent selfishness at its most sordid. And that some viewers will find issue with Clark's lack of judgment on the events depicted. Some critics labeled it exploitative, describing it as borderline child pornography. And that line there is why is one reason why this film is so controversial, and it's very, very difficult to get a hold of.
Mm-hmm.
I will look in a second live to see if there's any prints of this available. I haven't looked yet, so I want to do it while we're recording so we can see. We found this a certain way because we had to. I didn't know where else to get it, so we stumbled upon it. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So going on, there's some more. Now here are some critics who derided the film. The most common criticism relating to the perceived lack of artistic merit. I can see some people thinking that, but I kind of think they were looking at it in a skewed manner. So the Washington Post, Desson Thompson said, ostensibly about the banality of youthful evil, Kids is simply about its own banality. At best, it's a misplaced aesthetic experiment. At worst, it's glossy exploitation with enough controversy to launch 1,000 trite radio and television talk shows. That seems like a very narrow-minded review of the film.
Yeah.
It's like, there's more to it. Did you not watch the actual film? Did you not pay attention? Were you turned off from the beginning? Because if you were, you could have just chosen to not write anything. I don't know. Feminist scholar Bell Hooks spoke extensively about the film in Cultural Criticism and Transformation, saying, Kids fascinated me as a film precisely because when you heard about it, it seemed like the perfect embodiment of the kind of postmodern notions of journeying and dislocation and fragmentation, and yet when you go to see it, it has simply such a conservative take on gender, on race, on the politics of HIV.
Okay, it can't include everyone. It's a group of kids. It's just a group.
Yeah. It's a day in the life of this certain group of kids and how they're all interconnected and how this fucked up thing is going through them.
I'm so sorry that it wasn't an HIV movie that included straight kids, gay kids, trans kids, all kinds of other kids. I'm so sorry that it didn't encompass everything.
It's like people would have wanted more, but then if they gave them that, they would critique it for including all that. So it's a double-edged sword. They're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't.
I agree.
So also we have Moira Weigel, who wrote a 2016 retrospective essay, and she acknowledged that the film nails many of the ethnographic details of teen life in New York in the 90s. Mm-hmm. However, she commented on the film's depiction of HIV, writing, Watching it today, I was hoping for an account of the ways that the fear of AIDS shaped how young people in that time and place learned about desire. Instead, the film recast the virus into the threat lurking in the background of a kind of nightmare fairy tale. Rather than exploring how it shaped and unmade lives, it reduces the disease to one more slick bit of style. Something to add suspense where the film might otherwise risk aimlessness and to heighten the aura of transgression. While it manages to capture the sense instilled in us by our health teachers that disease and death would be the price of desire, it does little more than that. Instead of examining the myths that loomed over the teen minds of that era, it enlarges them.
Okay, so like I said, again, it can't cover everything. And the fact she's putting so much into this silly little movie that's simply there to say, if you're gonna fuck, get tested. Oh, by the way, get tested. Have you gotten tested? You should get tested. That's how I see it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm so sorry that it wasn't intellectual enough for her.
And I get what she's saying. She's like, looking back, I wish they would have addressed HIV more as to what it was. But at the time this was filmed in 94, this isn't that far into what we knew about AIDS and HIV at the time. And it was still a subject that was very controversial to address in any form of media.
And also, I think, if you're gonna feed the public this message, get tested, it needs to be digestible to the people that is your target audience. Me, as a teenager, what year was it?
95 is when this was
95. Okay, so I probably watched it in 97, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool. It was these cool kids. Yeah, they're obnoxious, and yeah, they're shitheads, but it's cool. That's what you... And the messages get tested. Even cool kids get tested.
Yeah.
So it didn't need to be intellectual. It wasn't for the intellectuals. It wasn't meant to change the fucking world. It was meant to get kids to get tested, I think.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Yes, there were the additional, the rape and the drug use and all this, the violence. But that's just... I don't even know how to describe it.
I think there's several things this movie wanted to get across. One is, hey, you teens out there who are doing all this that you see on screen, get tested, use protection, be smart about what you're doing.
By the way, here's some violence and some sex and some drugs for you.
It's also like, hey, maybe don't hang around people that immediately jump to beating the shit out of somebody just for bumping into you while you're skateboarding. It was a message to parents like, hey, you know how you're not really paying attention to what your kids are doing? Maybe pull your head out of your ass for 5 seconds and realize you might have a telly on your hands who's going around spreading a deadly disease because he's too worried about getting his dick wet.
Yeah.
And that's it. He doesn't care about school, doesn't care about anything. And he's also borderline predator because he wants the younger girls and he's 17. He's almost 18. He's like, I like him like 14, 13. It's like, dude.
Yep. And it gets called out throughout the whole movie. People are like, well, I hear you like him young, or don't you like him young? Or isn't she a little old for you? She's 16. But like the last chick he was trying to talk to, that he did get.
Yeah.
She was 14?
14.
13?
13 or 14.
Yeah.
He is 17, almost 18. He's going to be 18 very soon. They did talk about that, like, you're going to be 18 soon.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, he's like, the younger girls are so much better. And they're like, don't you like him young, right? And he's like, yeah, he wears it as a badge of honor. It's like, no.
It's a goal for him.
Much like Patrick Bateman should not be idolized or looked up to as an influence, Telly is not meant to be looked up to as someone of, this high status. He's a piece of shit. He's like, hey, this guy, don't be like him. That's another thing this movie says is don't be a Telly. Mm-hmm. Don't be a Casper. Be more... It blatantly kind of calls out the levels of maturity between boys and girls. All the girls in this are very much more mature than the boys.
Right.
Because even there's that scene in the pool where that one, I think it's Harold, it keeps coming on and trying to push himself on this girl. Like, just kiss me. And she's like, no, get away.
Mm-hmm.
I've said no, stop it. And he's like, come on, just do it. Come on, just kiss me once. And she stands like, no. She kept putting she didn't give in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see just how immature and stupid the boys are. And the girls are like, well, I'm not doing something like that. I mean, yeah, the girls ultimately make out in front of them, but they know, like, give them a little something they want. It'll shut them up for 5 minutes, and then maybe he'll stop coming after me trying to kiss me.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so many other things. And I think to look back on this movie and go, well, they didn't address HIV enough. It's like, but if they did in depth, this would no longer be the movie that it was. There are plenty of other movies that looked into HIV and AIDS much more thoroughly, if you want that. Kids wasn't about that, but that was, you see what these kids are doing? Now you factor this deadly disease in. And also at the time, think about how demonizing HIV and AIDS was to the gay community. Because it was like, oh, it's a gay disease, only gay people have, which is really fucked up to say, one. Two, because people were demonizing this community, so many people died from this virus. So this movie was like, hey, it's not just affecting this one community. Your kids can get it too. Because they're out there being stupid like Telly and Casper. Do you want that? So I can see what people are saying. This is such a heavy movie to talk about, so I'm glad we're doing this.
For sure.
I'm glad we're not doing it Interstellar style because it deserves more thought.
Yeah, I agree.
So this film did win some awards.
Oh,
or
I
at
didn't
least
know
got
that.
nominated for some. So, under the accolades section, in May of '95, at the Cannes Film Festival, in the categories of the Palme d'Or and Golden Camera, Larry Clark was nominated. He did not win, he was just nominated. Still, pretty good. This I don't agree with. In 1996, an award called Stinker's Bad Movie Awards, in the category of Worst Picture, Kids received the dishonorable mention.
Okay.
This is not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. It's shot in a certain style that is very much the way it should have been shot. It looks good, it sounds good, but it's not meant to be like this. It's not this magnum opus of Oscar-worthy potential. It's, but to call it a bad movie,
No.
it's not.
The acting wasn't bad. The story wasn't bad.
No. That's just somebody going, let's be controversial. In 96.
Right.
So then in March 23rd of 96, at the Independent Spirit Awards, now there's several here, in the category of Best Supporting Female, Chloe Sevigny was nominated.
Nice. She's one of my favorite actresses.
She's good.
I like her. She's gorgeous. She's like the quintessential cool girl. She's so cool.
Except in American Psycho, where she plays more awkward.
It doesn't matter.
But it's
I don't
still-
care what she plays. She is the cool girl.
Also, in the category of Best First Screenplay, Harmony Korine was nominated.
Okay.
In the category of Best First Feature, Kids was nominated. And then we have our first win out of everything. In the category of Best Debut Performance, Justin Pierce, who played Casper, won.
Oh, okay.
Which I get it, because he played that,
Ugh, so well. He's so
Yeah.
not likable.
and I don't think that's how he was as a person. But to capture that, but he was also I'll get into more
Yeah,
about what
I'm
he
excited.
was. So, moving forward. Now, we all know, I'll start with where some of the actors went first, and then I'll get into the other stuff. So, let's start with the writer, Harmony Korine.
Okay.
So, he writes Kids. He goes on to write the films Gummo, Julian Donkey Boy, Mr. Lonely, Trash Humpers, and Spring Breakers. I have not seen Spring Breakers. I didn't have a desire to, just because the content didn't look like something I would enjoy. But after seeing Kids, I might want to check it out.
Okay.
He's also written books, released artwork, directed music videos. But in the late 90s, he discovered drugs and hit them hard over a number of years.
What kind of drugs?
We'll get there.
Oh.
So he hit rock bottom when his addiction to both heroin and crack cocaine took a firm grip. Chloe Sevigny dated Korine for a short time, and has stated his drug addiction led to the dissolution of their relationship.
Wow.
Which I understand. She's like, hey, you're too strung out. We can't do this.
Mm-mm.
So during that crazy period, as Korine calls it, he was banned from the David Letterman show when he was caught going through Meryl Streep's purse. 2 of his houses have burned down.
Oh,
I didn't
no.
find out why, but I'm like, could it be related to the drug use? I don't know. Eventually, he got into rehab, cleaned his life up, straightened everything out, and is now married with 2 children.
Wow.
Yeah. So, see, if he can do it, anyone can possibly do it.
Yeah.
I say possibly because we know some people just can't get out of that cycle. They'll try and fall back into that hole.
Yeah.
And we all know that Chloe Sevigny, Rosario Dawson, and John Abrahams, a few of the cast members, went on to have pretty solid acting careers, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, Sevigny notably starred alongside Christian Bale in American Psycho. She was also in Boys Don't Cry and The Dead Don't Die. I still need to see The Dead Don't Die, because it looks fucking amazing. John Abrahams went on to be in Scary Movie, Meet the Parents, and the 2005 House of Wax. Yeah, most notably, we all know him from Scary Movie. He was Cindy's boyfriend. Was it Bobby? Lived in the trailer right near the high school. And then Rosario Dawson, who I think actually out of the three might have a slightly larger and more notable career.
Yeah, I think that's
Chloe
fair to
Sevigny has
say.
had a very notable career, but I think Rosario just edges her out a bit. I mean, she did Rent, Men in Black 2, she was in Death Proof, the movie Alexander, and most recently was Ahsoka Tano in The Mandalorian and the Ahsoka show on Disney+. So she's doing just fine.
Yeah.
I think all these actors are doing just fine. Now, onto the more sad part. I wanted to save that because I didn't want to. So Justin Pierce, who played Casper, committed suicide on July 10th, 2000, apparently by hanging himself in his Bellagio hotel room in Las Vegas while promoting Next Friday.
Why?
He was only 25 years old. They don't give a reason. I think it may have had to do with some mental health issues or something.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, I didn't look. They didn't give too much information. It was just basically, here's how he died. And I knew he committed suicide. I didn't realize he had hanged himself. Which is even more just like,
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen Next Friday, he's really good as Roach. He's fucking funny. I'd say you check that out. If you can get your hands on kids, watch that. But if you want a more likable role of Justin Pierce, make sure you watch Next Friday.
Yeah.
So Harold Hunter, who played Harold, he was the boy in the pool that was trying to get the girls to kiss. Like, come on, give me a kiss, their black friend. I don't mean to say it like that, but he was found dead on February 16th, 2006 from a cocaine-induced heart attack in his Lower East Side apartment.
Oh.
Police report stated that Hunter had cocaine on or around his body.
That's sad.
Yeah. But the Harold Hunter Foundation was founded in his memory to support city kids interested in skateboarding.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Aww.
There's another person, Sajan Bhagat. Now, in the scene where they're all early on in that apartment, and there's the one guy who's like getting the whippets ready, he's got the goatee, like the oldest guy.
Yeah.
Looks like he might be in his 20s getting these kids drugs.
Yeah. I think you even mentioned that. You're like, who the fuck is this guy hanging out with kids?
These kids? Why are these kids hanging out with him? Why is he hanging out with them? And why are there like 9-year-olds here doing whippets as well? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So, Sajan Bhagat died in Atlanta at the age of 27 in July of 1999. Cause of death is not known.
What do you mean not known?
There's nothing I could find. Nothing. I looked at different articles. It's just not known. Not known.
You know what's really sad? Those were not that far away from the movie kids.
No. He was only 4 years after the movie released.
Ugh.
Justin Pierce was 5 years after the movie released.
Ugh.
Harold Hunter is 11 years after the movie released.
Yeah, but, I mean...
So it's not a lot of time.
No. That's a bummer.
But both Pierce and Hunter were both skateboarders. This is how they started out. This is how they got discovered for kids.
Right.
Pierce was an original member of the Zoo York and Supreme skate teams. Hunter was sponsored by Zoo York and had been involved with Supreme since the brand's inception alongside Justin Pierce.
That's fantastic.
So they knew each other and were friends and got cast in this movie together. So their chemistry is very natural.
Yeah.
That's why it seems like they've known each other for a long time, because they had known each other for a while. So it's things like that you read about, you're like, man, that's so cool, but then you wish that they were still around to maybe see that there are people who look at this film and go, as controversial and as fucked up as your characters acted in this film, you nailed aspects of that era and the way youth acted at that time. and how they would act when basically they're latchkey kids. They really had no responsibilities. Whatever money they got, they spent on drugs or alcohol or whatever. They had no jobs. They were just in school. The world was their oyster, essentially, and they just did whatever the fuck they wanted.
What does latchkey kids mean?
Basically means that there's no parents to supervise them. They're just off on their own.
Oh, okay.
Which Gen X kind of has that because our parents let us go out until so long and kind of do whatever. So
For some reason, I thought that meant the parents had money.
no.
Okay.
No. The opposite, kind of not a very lucrative upbringing and just kind of left to left to your own devices. in a
Okay.
sense. So that's basically all the info I could find. I mean, I could go back and read the plot, but I think your plot synopsis from IMDb was the better way to go.
Yeah. Because a lot of the rest of the story is just filler. It's not terribly important.
Yeah. Like, the scene at the club is just a way to show you that Jenny gets drugged and isn't in her right mind later.
Yeah.
Which, apologies to anyone that may have been offended by what I said earlier. I realize the error of what I said. I had only seen this movie once to digest it, and it was a while back now that we're recording this. I even said, after we watched it, I told Leiann, I don't want to watch this movie again.
Yeah.
It's not one I want to revisit.
I do.
We have it available to watch it anytime we want? Yes, we do. But it's not one I want to revisit. Maybe down the line I might and give it another and kind of see, just kind of give it another watch with fresh eyes again.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to look here and see. As I said, I want to see if it's available anywhere, if anybody wants to purchase this.
I don't believe it is. It hasn't been available for a very long time. I would be surprised if you could buy it.
Yeah,
I want to say it's available on Apple? Maybe? I remember it being available somewhere. It was just wasn't something we had access to.
Yeah. Well, apparently you can get it on DVD on Amazon for $27.88.
Really? Because for the longest time, I would keep searching for that, and it would say you could get it, but then when you went to, purchase it, it wasn't available.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you can look into this and see. Apparently, there's a Blu-ray version for $32.99. I did not know this ever got pressed to Blu-ray.
Fantastic.
And if you're a retro head, well, they're out of stock, but if you can find it, there's VHSs out there of it somewhere. And now looking, it looks like the DVD is currently in stock, but certain other versions are out of stock. There is one version of the DVD that is in stock.
Okay.
So I cannot say how many they have. I don't know how long it'll be in stock for, but if you want to pick this up, head to Amazon. It is there. I do want to check one other thing. It is the place I go for a ton of things, Just Watch. And we're going to look and see if it's available anywhere. So it is not available at the moment on any streaming services. Now, normally, in most cases, I would not condone you acquiring this film by any other means, but since it is not readily available and nobody is probably going to put it out anytime soon, you're not going to see a Criterion Collection or a Synapse or Vinegar Syndrome release of this probably anytime in the near future. If you want to acquire it by certain means, I mean, the powers that be aren't letting us get it in any other way, so...
We're all grown-ups here. You know what we're saying.
Yeah.
Get it if you can get it. Get it where you can get it. We don't care.
Yeah, just use protection.
Yeah.
Looks
ooh.
like the story of the film. Use protection.
Don't spread viruses, please.
So, Leiann, what...
What?
This is a heavy one to talk about. We've gone almost an hour, but... do you think we did justice to this?
I think the only way we could cover more is by doing maybe a second episode and then having that be a interstitial but I think we're fine with what we've covered today. I mean, we didn't go scene by scene and talk about everything that happened in the movie, but I think we did it some justice.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to talk about without doing it Interstellar style because there's so much that goes on, and like you said, there's a lot of filler.
Mm-hmm.
Like the scene where Telly and Casper are just stealing malt liquor from the bodega. It's really just to show you, like, hey, these kids, they're delinquents. They're going to steal.
Yeah.
They just want to get their drink on.
Yep.
So it's there just to kind of establish who they are, what they do. It's not really important to the plot other than that. But I mean, it's a difficult and heavy movie to really talk about, so I wanted to do it this way because it's deserving of having that information and why it was so controversial and why it's hard to get and it's not available to watch anywhere. It still has that stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Still to this day in 2024, I think there's still people going, oh, that movie, it's so, ugh. And especially with the way things are right now in the U.S., if this movie were to be re-released, there would be riots. Because
yeah, for sure. For sure.
It would cause problems. So all that said, what kind of rating would you give this, Leiann, if you had to give it out of 5?
A 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5?
Yeah.
I'm like a 3.5 out of 5. And I know it sounded like I was like, even though I said I liked it, it's heavy. It's the horrors of real life. It's not a horror movie, but there are horrific things happening in this. Brutal violence, rape, finding out someone gave you an STD that will, at this time, is a death sentence. So, Telly is essentially murdering girls because he just wants to get laid. Yeah, it's not an entertaining film, it's not a fun film, but it is a good film, a well-made film.
Yeah, I could watch it multiple times, for sure.
You do like fare this is a little more dark and depressing than
yes, I do.
I watch something like Martyrs and I'm like, I need to watch cartoons for the next week. And you're like, what's next? Can I watch Flowers in the Attic? Can we watch that now? Can
Flowers in the Attic.
Yeah,
Flowers in the Attic would be my palate cleanser.
Oh my God. Meanwhile, I'm like, can I watch Super Troopers? Can I watch Beer Fest? Actually, I'd probably put on Killer Clowns from Outer Space, too. Those would be my palate cleansers. So is there anything else you want to talk about, Leiann? Anything else you want to touch on before we go and do our wrapping up here?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered everything.
All right, cool. So, yeah, check out Kids if you have the chance.
If you can.
If you can get it.
If you want to.
You know what we mean.
If you want to, you would. Yeah. So
I'm sure you know what we're talking about.
Do it if you want to. We're not pressuring you.
No, just.
Yeah, whatever.
Now we're coming off as the guy in the club giving Jenny drugs. Jesus. So the rest of October, we're going to be doing some Halloween special stuff around here. So we're going to be recording a couple of episodes with that. We've got friends of the show that are going to be sending us some clips of stuff they've enjoyed, talking about some Halloween specials they are really into, things like that. So we're going to be giving you guys that. As we said, there's going to be a little bit of a production workaround while things are going on around the house, renovations and such. So we're going to try our best to get you guys content. In the meantime, make sure you head over to TikTok, Skewered _ horror podcast. Check out what I've been putting up over there because I'm taking clips of the show for our audio and putting them to clips from the movie that talk about that particular scene. It's been really fun to do that. People apparently like it.
You've got like 20-something followers.
Yeah, it's not a lot, but go check that out. It's been fun to do. Make sure you head over to our YouTube channel. We got all the episodes up over there, as well as the TikToks are there as YouTube Shorts when they're not getting copyright claimed. I'm not going into that, but yeah, one of them's not there. It'll never be there. So that's where that stands. As far as the podcast, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or you can just go to Podbean. If you don't want to do any of that, you go to skeweredhead.com. You can find all of our social media links for Threads, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. There's a link to our link tree there. You can also find a link to our Patreon. Please check out the Patreon. We have a blog there that I have not done anything with for a while. Starting to sound like our friend Paul Stedman, who always talks about his dusty blog. I keep forgetting to put stuff up. I don't know what else to write about. It's probably just going to be wrestling at some point. But that's the blog over at skeweredhead.com. Patreon, we have transmissions episodes that I do. I need to put more of those out. We're also going to be doing more audio commentaries. There is one available for Demon Knight that you guys can check out. Also, make sure you check out my other show, Tales from the Podcast. We do that every Saturday live at 6 p.m., 9 p.m. on the East Coast. We are currently in Season 3 of Are You Afraid of the Dark? It has been a lot of fun, so make sure you check that out. And speaking of Tales from the Podcast, we also have a video game. It is called Tales from the Podcast, the fucking video game. It is a retro-style RPG where you control myself, JB, and our former co-host, Ron, as we all go through Grunge Town trying to stop another shitty horror movie from being made. Tons of horror references and a lot of fun. You collect Pogs as currency, so all you 90s kids, just like in this movie, those kids had Pogs too. They didn't talk about it, but they were all collecting Pogs. We fucking know it. They were out doing, playing Pogs and getting cool slammers and doing that for drugs. We know in kids that's what they were doing. But yeah, check it out. $10 via PayPal or Cash App. I will have all the information in the show notes for you guys to get that game. Make sure you do that. That helps support Tales from the Podcast and what I do there with JB. It's a lot of fun. I think that's pretty much it, except go to TikTok. Go check out our TikTok. I've been working really hard on the TikTok. TikTok.
The TikTok?
I meant to say something else at the end, and I didn't, so I know I sound like a 90-year-old. I've been working really hard on the TikTok there. I meant to say the TikTok content, and I forgot content. So I've been working hard on putting videos out there as TikTok content, so you guys can check that out. Leiann,
What?
is there anything else you want to tell these lovely people?
My dick!
And after you do that, swallow and enjoy that universe. It's just a bit skewered.